Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of the market. We are going to talk primarily about the counties that I'm in, which is Sacramento, Placer, and El Dorado. But I will tell you that a lot of this stuff that's going on is actually going on. I'm seeing it across the country. All right, well, we're going to dive in and we're going to get rolling. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the market and kind of what's going on. And I asked Shannon Hoff to join us today as well. She works for American Pacific Mortgage and has been in the mortgage business for many years. So we're going to talk about, and Tim, you were asking about Pierce County. I don't know that we're going to specifically talk about that, but we're going to talk about what is going on overall in the market. And I am pretty confident that it's probably going to apply in your market as well, because I've been in contact with agents all around the country, and we are seeing very similar activities happening in just about every market with what is going on right now. So let's dive in. First of all, I'm Marguerite Crespillo, and I have been in the real estate business for 30 years in December. As of December 23rd, it'll be 30 years, kind of crazy to me. I began my career in 1993, and I've been a part of over 4,000 deals. I don't say any of that to brag. I say because here's the deal. I have been through every kind of market you can possibly imagine, from the great markets to the really bad markets to the amazing markets to everything in between. In fact, when I bought my house in 1994, the interest rate on it was 10%, and we were happy to get it. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And if you guys have specific questions about anything in particular, I am more than happy to go over those specific questions so that we can address maybe things that are on your mind, or what kind of concerns you might have, or what things that you are thinking about or wanting to ask questions about. So I do have a team with my business partner, Mitzi De La Cruz, and we have several agents who are here and available to help you if you make the decision to buy or sell a home right now. So let's talk about a couple things. First of all, the number of homes for sale versus what is pending on the market, and versus new listings. So what does that actually mean? Many times what we look at when we're looking at statistics in the market to determine whether it's a buyer's market or seller's market or what's really going on, is we look at things like how many listings are currently on the market and how long are they taking to sell. And that can vary depending on a lot of different things, right? It can obviously vary on location. Hold on, let me let people in here. It can vary based on location. It can vary based on price point. Like, we're actually seeing homes in the higher price ranges, over $1 million. That market seems to be slowing down a little bit in some areas, but in other areas it's going crazy. In some areas we're seeing a lot of activity in the lower price point, and in some areas we're not. So there are a lot of variables that go into pricing a home and what is being impacted by the market. So, for example, homes for sale in September of 2023 was 2,389 units in this Tri-County area. And it was up 5.7% to the previous quarter in the previous month. Why does that matter? Well, why it matters is because we're starting to see inventory tick up a little bit, meaning a few more houses on the market, homes sitting a tiny bit in certain areas, and we're seeing price reductions on things. But I'll tell you what we're seeing more of, and Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, we're actually seeing a lot of cancellations. I mean, the last few transactions that I've had have ended up coming together because the prior buyer canceled, we stayed in a backup position, and we ended up getting the house. So if you're writing offers and you're getting beat out, you guys, and you have the opportunity to stay in backup position, I really strongly recommend that you keep your client in backup position. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they can go look at other homes. They find something else. They don't have to move forward, right? But the bottom line is, over this last year, I've probably had 4 or 5 transactions that specifically came together because the other buyer canceled, and my buyer was able to
just did
slide
it right
in.
now, right?
What's that?
Wasn't that Tammy?
That wasn't Tammy's. That was yeah, actually no, Tammy's wasn't a one, but the other one that I did for Karen Rodriguez, theirs was, that was exactly what happened on theirs. They loved that house. They were heartbroken when they didn't get it, and I said, we'll keep it in backup position. And about 2 weeks later, we found out that they ended up getting it, so it worked out really well. So, well, actually, let me take that back. Tammy's offer wasn't a backup offer, but that house had been in contract and fallen out. So, you know, we went back into the market. So now another couple things to keep in mind is that homes that were listed was down a bit. Homes that were for sale in September, meaning what sold and closed, was also down a little bit. So the homes that closed in September was 1,347 units, down 16%. So those are some pretty significant numbers. We also saw homes that went into contract was down 11%. And so, you know, we're seeing some of it. Some people can say, oh, this is seasonal, right? And it might be, right? We're headed into the time of year when the market does slow down a bit. So it could be seasonal. But we are seeing buyers are a little nervous right now, feeling a little uncomfortable. Many of the sellers, they're still have really great interest rates on their house. They might have 3 or 4% interest rates on their home, so they're not super motivated to sell. So we're seeing kind of this whole dynamic of what is happening in some
golden handcuffs.
Yes, golden handcuffs for sure. We're seeing also the average price per square foot, ironically, has gone up a tiny bit. So you can see it went up from $334 in August to $344 in September. And so it's gone up about 3 to 4% since last year at this time. So that means that it could mean a couple different things, just so you know. It could mean, number one, that the average sales price is going up a little bit. It could also mean that more smaller homes are selling than the bigger homes. If you look deep into the statistics, you'll see that the higher end homes that are 4,000 and 5,000 square feet, many times actually sell for lower price per square foot than say 1,000 square foot home or a 1,200 square foot home. So what this statistic leads us to believe is that the smaller homes, the lower end homes, the lower price homes, more of those are selling than the higher end homes, if that makes sense. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop those questions in the chat and we'll make sure that we get to them. So another one here is the average CDOM. So what does CDOM mean? DOM means days on market, how long a home has been on the market. But what we have seen is we've seen clients also switching realtors when their house isn't selling in the timeline or the expectations, or maybe they hired a discount broker who, you know, didn't do great pictures or a number of other things and their house isn't selling, they'll switch agents. When they do that, it's called a cumulative days on market, meaning let's say they were listed with another agent for 90 days, they canceled that listing agreement and relisted with another agent, and now they've been on the market for 30 days, then the cumulative days on market can be 120 days. Now we're seeing that there hasn't really been much change in the average days on market. We're seeing the continuous days on market in September was 28. It was the same as compared to last month, except it was lower in June and July, okay? And even if you look at a year ago, in August, it was actually the same, so there was really no change. But if you look at a year ago in July, the average days on market kind of inched up a teeny tiny bit. Again, not a huge issue, but these are things that we do want to watch pretty closely. Okay, so average price per square foot in this screen, we're talking again about the average price per square foot compared to last year. So you can see that last year at this time, we were at 343 and we're at 344 this year. So really, again, not much of a change. However, keep in mind, in many areas, what we were seeing year over year was a pretty dramatic increase, right? So year over year, we were seeing, if you look at 2020 to 2021 and 21 to 22, we were seeing anywhere from 5 to 8% appreciation, and we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing it to stay pretty stable, pretty consistent and similar to what it was a year ago. Now, I attribute a lot of that to the fact that earlier this year, we went from an average of 4% interest rates to we're hovering around 8% right now. So that slowed down the economy quite a bit, which we were seeing crazy inflation, lots of things. We needed to do this, you guys. I mean, this is not something that was just trying to kill the market. We needed to slow down inflation. And so one of the best things that they did do was interest rates. Now, of course, if you're a buyer, you don't agree with that. If you're a seller with a low interest rate, you're fine. But overall, it has impacted the real estate market, and it has slowed things down, which it needed to, because if you're a buyer and you're trying to compete against 20, 30, 40, 50 offers, it just wasn't realistic. Now you might still be competing in some markets, but not as much as you were. And the truth is, the good news about that, which I think Shannon will dive into in a few minutes, the good news about that is if you're able to buy during these times with the rates they are, when rates adjust and come down, which everyone's predicting that they will potentially next year, we're headed to an election year, right? And election years, they like to make things look good. So the good news is that if you were to buy something now, you could always refinance next year when that happens. If you wait till next year when interest rates drop, what do you think is going to happen to the real estate market? The real estate market is going to jack up again. You're going to be up against those multiple offers again and potentially pay more for a home at that time. It'd be better to buy something now, little lower price point, maybe you have interest rate, but you can always make adjustments to that. So we'll come back to that in a few minutes when Shannon goes over that. So the next thing is September 23 was definitely a seller's market, right? It was up 28% compared to last month. So if you look at the months of inventory last month, 1.4, that has gone up a little bit, but it's not quite yet a buyer's market. We are seeing the months of inventory rise. And when you see inventory rise, if there's more inventory and not enough buyers, what happens to prices? Prices start to edge down. If you have not enough inventory and too many buyers, right, then guess what? It makes it difficult for buyers to get in. We still have some of the lowest inventory we've had in my 30 years in real estate. So it's not like we've got a ton of inventory. The inventory is still dramatically lower than it has been in a long, long time. Somebody said since 1995. I don't know. We have Dave Searcy on here too, who's been in this real estate industry for a little over 40 years, I think, right, Dave? 44 years. We still can't hear you, but I can read your lips. So there you go. So, and you know, the thing is I can guarantee if we could hear Dave, it'd be cool. But the thing is that I know Dave was around when interest rates were in the 18%, 12%, 16, 17.5. Yeah. So kind of crazy, right? Obviously, we're hoping that we don't go back into that of an arena. But the reality is that we do have higher interest rates, and that is somewhat slowing things down. So let's dive into this last slide, and then we'll have Shannon come on and talk about a couple of things. So what this shows is that this kind of shows a combination of all three counties, Sacramento, Placer, and El Dorado counties. If you guys want something about a specific area that you're in, please feel free to message me, and I'm more than happy to put together some statistics for your individual market. But if you look at this right here, if you look at the homes for sale in July of 2022, we had 4,457 homes. Look at today, 2,389. I mean, the lowest, it went really low in this year.
That's crazy. It's half.
Yeah. But it's kind of interesting. And then if you actually look at what sold, the solds a year ago were 1,698. They went down to a low of 847. But as of September, we had sold 1,347 homes.
Wow.
So The inventory is definitely down. There's still some great opportunities and great homes for sale out there that are coming up, along with a little bit better pricing on some things. And we're starting to see some adjustments in the market. So I really encourage you guys, if you want to know any more about a specific market or specific area, then please don't hesitate to reach out to me and we can talk a lot more in depth about that. Sorry, I had a little bit of a cough there. Might have been that sourdough bread got caught in my throat. I'm making. But here's what I can tell you is that in my 30 years in real estate, there are still buyers and there's still sellers. There's still lots of reasons why people need to buy a home and why people need to sell. With interest rates, a couple things to think about. If you are currently paying rent, then you don't have any tax deductions, right? And you're most definitely not getting any kind of an equity appreciation. And here's another little thing that I would love to talk about. People get really caught up in the actual interest rate, but the truth is too, if it's option for you and you can pay a little bit extra every month on your mortgage, you're actually effectively reducing the interest that you pay on the home and the interest rate. So it's something to definitely think about. So Shannon, do you want to dive in and chat a little bit about rates?
Yep. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you enable me?
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Okay. So I see yours. Okay. So can you guys see mine? So one thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and go over like, so I hear a lot of rumble on the streets. Oh, recession, it's going to hurt the house prices, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Because I hear it all the time from clients. And here's something to look at. Okay. Housing stays strong through recessions. If you look at this since 1960, if you see there's all these blue lines are the recessions, right? So the housing has either stayed stable. 8 out of the 9 past recessions, the housing has stayed stable or gone up. And shortly after recession, the housing does go up. The only exception is, of course, as many of us know, is in 2008, where if you were just breathing, you got a loan, right? You had a pulse, you got a loan. So, and that housing market, it actually made the recession. All these other recessions that happened wasn't because of the housing market. But if you'll see, since 1960, right, house prices have still shot up over 60 years. So, and then there's some things to just take into consideration. My next slide. Okay. So if you'll see here, housing formations versus completions, right? As you'll see now, the difference between 2000 and, let me see if I can move this screen over, 2008 versus now is that there was a lot more completions, a lot more housing. The housing market was like this, and here's the amount of buyers that were looking to buy. Now it's the opposite. Can you guys see those graphs there? Another thing that's very interesting is that if you'll see here, the graphs, how many people were born in each decade or 2 decades here, right? So the amount of people that were born, you'll see 30 years later that there's a drop in the housing market. There's less people that are actually purchasing homes. So if you'll see here, back in 1972, there was a huge drop in birth rates. Do you guys know why? Roe versus Wade.
Oh, wow.
That's when abortion became legal. And so you'll see here the huge drop, right? So the difference is that that generation X right there, only 55 million. Millennials, 66 million, post-millennials, 61 million. So those millennials, guess how old they are now? They're in their 30s. They're moving out of the basement. They need to find homes. And now for the housing, there's 30 million more people than there was just a decade ago, right? So that's why there's not a ton of inventory. And
well, and we're seeing a lot more over 55 communities coming in as well. Like I live in the Lincoln area, and we have 3 separate over 55 communities within a 5-mile radius of my home.
oh, yeah,
And
for sure.
we're seeing a lot more, and we're seeing them, they don't have quite the stigma they had as well. They're much more active adult communities, right? Where they have lots of activities going on. And I mean, they're like, the one down the street is like a resort. I mean, some of the stuff they're putting in. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it just shows you back here, back in 2006, 2007, all the houses that were available and the amount of people that were looking to purchase the blue line. So it's just such a different market now, right? Here we go, 33-year-olds in 2023, born in 1990. So these are the people that are purchasing homes right now. And I see it. I see it. I see kids in their late 20s that are purchasing homes, right? So you also look at within the housing market too, you'll see if there is like high vacancy rate, which is what happened back in 2006, high vacancy rate, because there was too many homes. So the house prices went down. Right now, if you'll see 2020, homeowner vacancy rate, very, very low, as well as rental vacancy rate, very, very low. But you'll see these lines up here where it was super high. So there's just not enough houses available. Supply. Okay, back in 2007, 4 million homes were available. Do you see this? And look how it's just gone down. Now we only have 1 million homes that are available in 2023. So that's a major difference of the housing market then to the housing market now. And this is what I go over with my clients so that they understand what we're working with, because they just hear on the news, oh, don't buy a house. It's the wrong time to buy a house. And if they don't buy a house, by the time that it's 2030, they're going to be completely priced out of the market because all the corporations are going to own 45% of the 65% of single home residences that are rentals. The corporations that are in a lot of the Sunbelt area, Arizona, Florida, Texas, a lot of those corporations that own a lot of the houses out there, their rent is 33%, 22% higher than normal rent. So if people don't get into a house now, then they're going to be priced out of the market. In the Tri-County area, rent's supposed to be $4,000, $4,500 by then.
Well, and interestingly enough, Shannon, I hadn't had a chance to talk too much about this, but California, for those of you who are in California, has just passed a new law that allows you to put 4 units on a lot.
Yeah.
So if you have a regular lot, you could actually now convert it to have 4 homes on it, which is kind of crazy to me.
Too, that Newsom signed something about ADUs, that you can actually sell the ADU on the lot too.
Yep.
I might want to put 8 ADUs on my lot. You can do it on yours.
Is going to create something similar to, I don't know how they're planning on doing it, but you know, like in Tahoe where you can buy part of a house, you can, what do they call that? I can't think of the name of it right now.
It's not a timeshare, but it's something.
Not a timeshare, but it's a shared equity. So you can buy like 1/8 of a house where you get, 14 weeks or 12 weeks or something a year access to that house, which is really interesting to me. So I'm super curious to see what is going to happen with some of these new ADU laws. For those of you who don't know what an ADU is it's an accessory dwelling unit that can be put on a property that somebody can live in. So yeah, we're seeing a lot more multi-generational families coming together. I mean, I know we're in the same boat. We have our kids and grandkids living here and, on our property, and we're seeing a lot more of that, mostly because people cannot afford to buy, something they can't, like our affordability. So we're going to see a lot more of that coming up.
So also, if you see this back in 2007 compared to now, I'm pointing at my screen, but there's 30 million more people. And if you look at 1.08 million homes that are available, look at this one. If you actually look, existing homes in inventory, 1,080,000, but under contract and off of market at 466,000. So really there's only 614,000 homes that are available across the United States. That's not a lot in comparison with 4 million, right? And we have more people living here. And then just this shows the active listings in the US from January 2017 to now. See how it's declining, even though it's a higher population. Here, very interesting too. So since the 40s, right? This is the percentage in 1943 to 1947, how much house prices went up. 11%, 17%. So it's super interesting to see. And so the only times that house prices went down is those little pink boxes there, -1%. You'll see in 2007, that was a big drop right there, but very, very small drop. So house prices continue to compound since 1947. They've gone up 118% across the United States. So this isn't just county by county California, which is just even crazier, right? But so house prices from the 40s went up straight 43 years. So, I mean, it's super interesting facts. And this is just the facts. It's no baloney out there. Again, in comparison to the inventory, what we have. So you'll see on side by side what we're working with, formations, completions. Everyone focuses on 2007 to 2011, and that was an anomaly. Inventory, demographics, lending standards. Again, you were breathing and you got a loan, you know. I'm like, oh yeah, I make $1 million a month. Okay, you get a loan. I got into the industry at the very end of that. And I did loans that were in Texas, which was a little bit more hard lending guidelines, in Chicago. There wasn't very many people that did those two states. I was one of 2 females out of 600 men at AmeriQuest, and they gave me those 2 difficult states. They're like, here, you're going to be licensed here. I'm like, yay, I get to do loans. So I learned the hard way of how to do loans to actually qualify people based off of income and all that. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still here. Fighting that fight every day.
Sure.
Anyway, so higher home prices turning higher. This is the Case-Shiller report that you can see, CoreLogic, all of that from January to February to March to April. You'll see it's still ticking higher. Then the last slide will show the 8% appreciation year over year, even with a larger inventory that we might possibly see in the future. I don't know. I think that with the new home builders, they're very cognizant of the rates and making sure not to still keep the inventory tight. And if you are, they're building homes once somebody goes into contract. But again, with rates that are going higher, they worry about affordability and people being able to still qualify, because they might have been qualified in January, and come October, if rates gone up a couple of points, which they did, it just still makes it harder. So the builders are still a little bit more conservative. So we're not going to see a huge amount of inventory come on the market. And plus it's expensive to hire people, and products are expensive and all of that. So that's what I see in the market. And those are the stats that I look at all the time, daily. And I scream to the mountains for my clients to try and build wealth. 99% of millionaires in the United States own real estate and invest in real estate. I mean, it's just a given.
Yeah, I mean, this is great information. And like I said, I mean, to me, the best decision we made back in 1994 was buying the home we bought. We bought it at 10%. It wasn't easy, but we made it happen, and it made a lot of sense. So I really encourage you, to do what is best for you, figure out what you're most comfortable with, but there is still plenty of opportunity out there to find a home that makes sense for you. And it's really important to kind of keep a close eye on the market. And if you want to know more about your specific area, or more details about your home, I have connections and partners all across the country. So whether it's here in Northern California or, you know, wherever you might be, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we're happy to go over some more of the details.
And I'm happy to send these slides to you guys too, if anybody wants them.
Yeah, and we did record this, so if you want a copy of the recording, we're happy to send it out for you as well. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up tonight? If your microphones aren't working, you can type in the chat if you like, if you have any questions or comments.
I have a question. Did you make me some bread?
I did. You're welcome to have some. If there's any left, I'm not sure. My brother and my kids are downstairs. They've probably eaten the entire loaf by now, because it usually doesn't last long when it first comes out of the oven. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining us tonight. We will have the recording available, and we'll be sending it out. And we'll be doing this again next month. We're going to probably be digging into a few more details next month. So we're kind of still figuring this out ourselves. This is only our second month doing it. So, but it's great information and great statistical data. And feel free to reach out to me, message me, smoke signals, text message, whatever works for you. And I'll be happy to get you some additional information. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody, tonight. Make it a great night. Bye.
Bye, you guys.